A mind-bending movie that takes you on quite a thrill ride and delivers quite the ominous ending. What actually is that UFO? Plus, what happened to Antler's impossible shot? Jordan Peele teams up with a stellar cast, including regular collaborator Daniel Kaluuya, to deliver Nope, a science fiction thriller that blends the ideas of fear and exploitation seamlessly. Peele gives us some interesting stories to follow with some interesting ending points. So let's talk about all those endings and also what they mean when stepping back and looking at the rest of the movie. Personally though, to understand how everything ends, let's catch up on where Nope takes us beforehand with a deep dive of the plot. The story takes us down two separate plot routes, one being OJ and Emerald Haywood, the other being Ricky Jupe Park. OJ and M, brother and sister, inherit a ranch from their father who's killed under strange circumstances. A nickel that fell from the sky to be exact. Ouch! Whereas OJ wishes to carry on his father's legacy in training and handling horses for film and TV productions. M sets her sights on fame. Some 6 months later, the siblings find themselves in financial trouble and needing to sell horses to Ricky Jupe Park. Now, where does Jupe fit into this? Jupe is a former child star who was on a show called Gordy's Home, which featured a chimp as the titular Gordy. Unfortunately, said chimp flips out and injures several people. A young Jupe witnesses it all, and the chimp even tries to extend a fist bump to him before being gunned down. When we catch up with Jupe in adulthood, he owns a neighboring ranch to the Haywoods named Jupiter's Claim, a Western-themed, theme park. Jupe openly exploits his presence at the massacre he witnessed as a child. And as time goes on, we learn exploiting is kind of his forte. He even rents out his memorabilia room for people to sleep in. A shoe from the set that day is actually on display. Strange, right? From there, the UFO soon comes into it. Both plot lines have their own way of dealing with this traditional saucer-shaped threat. The wide-eyed siblings decide to document it and make a profit to overcome their current money troubles. With Jupe, it turns out he has been aware of the monster for some time and has been buying horses from the Haywoods to feed to it in order to show it for paying customers. Now, some things to note about this creature that we pick up on in the movie. For one, the saucer is seemingly a living organism. That's no ship with a little green man inside. That is the little green man, if that makes sense. This UFO also has the ability to turn off electronics. On first glance, you'll think that this is just to make for some spooky light flickering, but it does come back into play. We know that it only eats organic matter and it spits out anything else, which does explain Papa Haywood's unfortunate coin incident. Again, ouch. Something that is important to remember for later on is that the creature only preys on those who are looking at it. Think reverse weeping angels from Doctor Who. Now, back to the lead up to the ending. The Haywoods incorporate cameras at their ranch in order to try and capture a look at the UFO, now dubbed as Jean Jacket, a nod to Emerald's childhood horse. This brings an angel who turns to be Haywood's unofficial electronics guy. From there, M comes up with the idea of stealing a fake horse from Jupiter's Claim and using it as a decoy to lure Jean Jacket to their ranch. Their plan goes, to plan, in that Jean Jacket does appear and suck up the decoy horsey. Only one snag. Two snags. The two cameras they use don't capture what they need. One is disabled by Jean Jacket's ability to manipulate electronics. See, I told you that would come back. And a praying mantis blocks the lens of the others, which conveniently goes once the UFO is out of sight. The other snag being that the decoy horse is spat back out and the UFO isn't very happy about it. The Haywoods then turn to the cinematographer from the beginning of the movie, Antler's host, to join in on the fun gulp and to help get as good of a picture as possible. We then have Juniper's Claims star Lasso Experience. Jupe has a new show which is to exploit Jean Jacket's existence. June even claims that him and his family have been feeding the alien every week at the same time. This doesn't go to plan. The UFO sucks up Jupe and all of his paying customers. Let's hope they had receipts. Too soon? This is the incident that has Antlers accepting the Haywoods' offer after initially rejecting the invitation. From here, OJ, Emerald, Angel, and Antlers put their heads together in a bid to get what they want. OJ acknowledges that Jean Jacket must have its way of being. This leads to him noticing that the creature doesn't attack when not being looked at, which explains his survival from an attack a short time before. With this in mind, Antlers brings out a hand-cranked camera, no need for electricity, smart. and they litter the fields with inflatable tube men, or wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube men if you prefer. These act as indicators of when the UFO is nearby. After a nosy TMZ reporter does anything to get the perfect shot of the saucer, which leads to his expected death, OJ races back to the ranch being pursued by Jean Jacket. Luckily, he has a plan of using a rainbow-colored parachute, similarly colored to the flags wrapped around the decoy horse they tried to feed it. Antlers then goes for the big money shot and ends up being sucked up by the creature. Jean Jacket spits out anything that isn't flesh or organic matter, remember? Though we don't see that camera again, it is highly likely that it still exists. Unfortunately, Antlers will not. In the name of artistry, you are saluted. This then leads us into the final battle. OJ is pursued once again, except now Jean Jacket changes from its saucer appearance into some kind of biblical tentacle being. OJ's fate is unanswered for a time as we follow Emerald to Juniper's claim, where she prepares to get shots of the creature whilst releasing a giant parade-like balloon. This idea being that the creature will think the balloon is looking at it, meaning it will eat it up. Jean Jacket does just this and the balloon explodes, taking the Jean Jacket with it. For Emerald, the beast has been defeated and she got that shot she was gunning for. But then she sees OJ still on his horse from a distance, except something is off. OJ doesn't wave or smile or anything. He's motionless. What does this mean in the final moments? For each ending, let's start with Ricky Jute Park. This guy was brought up in the entertainment industry and kept the flair for it in adulthood. Unfortunately, he didn't heed the warning of his past. The show he was a part of as a child shown Chimp Gordy being exploited. This eventually led to Gordy's demise and left young Parks being stricken with a childhood trauma. His eventual death is symbolic of how he never really left that set and history has repeated itself. For the Jean Jacket, this actually links back to Gordy. It is worth noting that balloons played a part in both deaths. Gordy was sent into a frenzy after a balloon popped nearby, and a large parade-like balloon is what ended Jean Jacket for good. From a wider perspective, it should be said that Jean Jacket may not have been a villainous entity as perceived. Peele is known for social commentary in his movies, and this is no exception. The fact that Jean Jacket is made a spectacle is what caused its natural response to kick in. It's symbolic that this can sometimes lead to violent tendencies. Again, Gordy was put in the spotlight and he snapped eventually. It all fits. Even the TMZ reporter and Antlers, who still try to get an Oprah shot even in death. For OJ, it could go either way. OJ's fate is open to interpretation. Has he been taken over? Has it taken his soul? When we see him again, there is a sign above him reading "Out Yonder," implying he is elsewhere now. Nope can lead you to believe there is an otherworldly situation here, but what if it's much more simple than that? OJ is unsatisfied with his job at the beginning, and M is all about that fame and fortune. The plot of the movie changes everything, but once it's over, it's back to normal. They could go rich if their evidence is believed, but is OJ and Emerald's dynamic back to normal? In Emerald's initial happiness, is OJ now realizing that he'll probably now go back to keeping his father's legacy alive? Back to a simple life? When it comes to Emerald, her story's centered on her being able to stand alone without her father and brother. Being able to label herself a success. Assuming sci-fi is at play, it lays out the uncertain future of whether or not she can do so. Can she literally cope without her father or brother at all? There's also the point that everything was about that image of Jean Jacket. But in the end, Emerald's gaze is on her brother riding his horse. Has Emerald's experience helped her to shift perspective? What's your thoughts on the ending of Nope? What did you pick up on? Was there any other symbolism? Did certain character traits foreshadow where certain people ended up? There's a lot to unpack with a Jordan Peele movie, so have at it. Oh, and spoiler alert, no horses were harmed in the making of this movie, but an alien was. Or was it?